Welcome to Starfleet Universe On Call. I am Paul Franz, owner of Franz Games. I run SFU Online, FedCom Online, and Starfleet Warlord. Just remember how to join us. We have a talkcast every Thursday night starting at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can call the phone. Just dial 605-562-0444. Just follow the directions. The call ID is 17702. Or you can participate on the web. Just go to the TalkShoe website, at www.talkshoe.com. That's up to call ID 17702 or SFU On Call or Starfleet Universe On Call. And you'll find us there. Or for the best online experience, where you want to go to twitch.tv. That's twitch.tv/SFU On Call. And you will find us there. You'll be able to join us and join the chat room and also see my lovely face while we record live. Of course, if you need to contact me for any reason, my email address is sfuoncall@gmail.com. It's sfuoncall@gmail.com. I just want to thank Greg, who was so wonderful in actually notifying me that the podcast had not been actually being put out for the past 6 months. And unbeknownst to me, that something broke in TalkShoe. So I thank him so gratefully to fix for pointing that out. That it has been fixed, and now I am set up to monitor my own podcast. Actually, my own podcast feed, so that I can make sure that that will never ever happen again. Also, just want to say thanks there. Of course, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do that. Podcasting account is SFU On Call. My personal account is Paul Franz. It's PAULFRANZ. There's no T in that. And if you want to follow my business account, that's Franz Games, FRANZGAMES. And of course, I'm part of the new Blue Sky, which I've been for like a couple months now, I think. Of course, we have the SFU On Call one, which is sfuoncall.bsky.social. And also, if you want to follow my personal/business account, which is franzgames.com, feel free to follow that one. At the moment, I haven't posted anything. I might post things later. I have to still figure out what I want to do with those accounts. I definitely, I'm right now. I am following people and reading some wonderful things, including like the New York Times, some, at least not the articles, but at least the headlines. So it gives me an idea of what the news is out there. And of course, you'd love the Talkcast gets turned to a podcast available on iTunes and various other feeds around the net. This week, not much got done at ADB. At least that's what it seems like. Partially because of Steve and his lovely Leanna were so busy with no Operation No Quarters that, you know what? They took themselves out for Monday, and then they got a little icy later on in the week, and they were unable to leave the house, really, without putting themselves in grave danger, which they don't want that. So, they stayed home and actually worked a little more in the house. And also, Jean stayed home, but she actually was busy doing some work, which is Ryan NASA Starship book. She's been proofreading that. But Steve Cole does all his work at the actual office, so he didn't get anything done for work. Now, this week on Found on the Online Store, they have miniature stands. Yes, a pack of 6 2500 size miniature stands. They are $9.95. It's just a round base stands for tall flying and with a tall flying peg and straight pegs. So you can use those for your miniatures. Just a reminder, actually, that I haven't done this for a while, so I'm going to do this now, which is Starfleet Battles players can get the Cadet Training Manual and Cadet Training Handbook. I'm not sure what the difference is. At the local e-tailers, you can go to www.starfleetgames.com/cadettraining.html. That's with a capital T and capital C and capital T and Cadet Training. And they'll point you to the different e-tailers and where you can download a copy to get that training manual for free, completely free. It's just that you might have to sign up for an account. And that's about it. Just remind that is happening. And of course, also they have a Facebook page, which just look for Amarillo Design Bureau, and you shall find them. They are good about posting things. They're infrequently at this moment, but overall you can find some good stuff there. Obviously, if you need to contact them, you can contact them through the page, and they'll be more than happy to respond. No, Steve Cole will not respond to you. Steve Cole is not allowed to be on the page. Gene told him no. Moving on forward, we have the SFU Online tournaments. We have, of course, the Sapphire Star 18 tournament that we're still waiting for the final to be scheduled on that one, which is going to be Metal Dog, i.e. Justin Reuter, versus BS, which is Bill Scheller. That's going to be Zinni versus Klingon. As I mentioned last week, it's going to be a classic battle. When it comes to 500 BPV tournament, the multiple games have started, which is good to see. It looks like they've gotten some good progress. Some of them got all the way up to turn 4 already, which is quite awesome to see. I think it was one that was Klingon versus Gorn, where the Gorn beat up on some of the Klingons E4s. They're still be able to keep going, and from my reading, in that game, the E4s are still on mission. They won't be doing much firing anymore. I'm sure all the weapons are pretty much gone, but they still have their scanners. Sorry, not the scanners. Their sensors. So not special sensors, but the normal sensors. So the idea is that they can still control drones, while even if they can't do anything else, they can still control drones up to range 35 hexes. So even if they, I'm not sure if they're going to plan on flying with the fleet or not. I'm not sure what they plans on doing with those ships. I'm not exactly sure about the fleet arrangement at the moment in time in that game. That's the one thing about fleet games, is that you don't have to keep them all in one bunch. You can spread them out and do all kinds of crazy things. In some cases, it might behoove you to do. In other cases, it's suicide to do. Moving on for the online client stuff. Actually, just a little note, which is, as I mentioned last week, I got the Linux machine. I have to set up the Linux. I want to figure out which one is the best one to work on Flatpak. I'm not sure which distribution that would be. I'm gonna look that up real quick and install that distribution. I've already started setting the Windows box. I need to work on that some more. I've got to actually install the software that I need to do the builds on that box. Also, one thing that also happened, which was wonderful, which I actually got my Mac up and running again. It's all fixed. I actually had to upgrade the operating system for it to start working again. Now, part of the hardware is dead, but I moved it to a different USB hub to run the external hard drive off of, and that's running fine. So I'm saved at the moment. I've got to really think that through, because if the USB, one or two hubs, I'm not sure when it comes to the USB-C ports, what if they're connected to the same hub or different hubs internally to the computer. That if that dies, okay, I might want to think about getting another machine to replace this one or something else. The one thing about this one that I have right now is that I upgrade the memory on it. So now it's a 2018 machine, so it's still running fine. I just need to figure out what I want to do when it comes to that, because it's an Intel Mac, so I still kind of need it for people who are still running Intel Macs. And of course, this one's one of the newer Apple Silicon Macs that I'm running on right now, and I need to figure out what I want to do. So, but at least I'm up and running on that, so I should be able to create a new release shortly. Moving onward and forward, when it comes to the library, not much has happened there. As I pointed out last week, I'm going to be working with Matt Potter about how to better exchange files. We're going to hopefully do this through GitHub, because both him and I both have GitHub repositories where we keep that stuff. So we can actually conversion the files, which is good, so that if we need to, we can go back and fix it or see what changed and things like that. So with that is news for this week. And this me, your son, all powerful, welcoming you to Star for the Universe on call. And tonight we got me, of course. Got Doug. Say hi, Doug.
Hi, Doug.
And that's it. We are.
I feel like this still a good quality lineup. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, there. Oh boy. Okay. Let's see how this works. I'm actually using the Stream Manager tonight. This is on Twitch to see if that might help things or not. Whatever. But anyway, okay. Moving onward and forward to tonight's recording and podcast. Two things. One thing first, before the first, probably the main topic for this evening, possibly the first topic. Okay, let me bring it up. I'm pretty sure I didn't do this last week, which is, I got Jeff to show the ships. Did I do it last week or not? I forget. I don't think so. But anyhow, because I know I talked to you about it at the convention, Doug, but I don't think I actually showed people it. Okay, I'm actually going to show my desktop. I did not expect to do that, but okay. Okay, since Justin actually started his game on Friday, and I said, "Hey, Jeff, given that you already approved Justin's, hey, you said you were waiting for that before you announced what the actual fleets were. So it's like, oh, can you post them?" It's like, and he posted them, which is awesome. So, of course, here's me, Andromedan. And the Saltorian got 2 heavy cruisers, 2 destroyers. Frank Princeton is playing Illyrian, has 5 ships. He's got a BC plus, and this includes, I think that includes the PF. I forgot this. The modifications of the tractor. I forget what they're called. Jeez, it's been a while since I played with that. So now that's 165. You got HCWBUM. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Which is 141. He's got a scout, the heavy war destroyer scout, and he has 2 PFs, both worth 37. Which is going to be, to me, this makes it interesting with the PFs. We got Madman in playing the Klingons with the C7, a D6D, and 2 E4s. This is the one that, for those of you who listen to the news portion of this, i.e. not live, I mentioned that the E4s had gotten beaten up, but they're not dead. They're not, according to the person flying it, they're not mission killed. So because they're going to be used mainly for controlling drones. Not much fire. Big surprise. An E4, which I'm actually surprised that they allowed that in the game, because I'm pretty sure an E4 is considered an escort, carrier escort. But I might be wrong on that. It might be like an E4E.
Yeah, I think you are thinking of the escort variant.
Right.
Yeah, off the top of my head, without having the SSDs available.
Understood. Got Vandar. He's the Romulan, which is playing against Justin, and he's the one that has he has 2 King Eagles, a Battlehawk B, and a Battlehawk. This one has, I think, an additional plasma F torpedo, and so that's worth 100 versus the 85 of just the Battlehawk. This is the one that's playing against Justin Reuter, which is Metal Dog. Down here, which is the Fed BCF, the NCL plus A, and a DDL plus, and a small frigate scout plus. FFS plus. Plus is in the case of The feds usually means they converted some of their labs because they realized, we got way too many labs. We're great for exploration, but not so much in battle. So they converted that space to AWRs. So, and as you can see, which is interesting by itself. We have the Librarian 101, which is Ed Crutchfield, I think. He's playing the Fed with a CLC, one strike cruiser, a DW, a DWS, as in a War Destroyer and a War Destroyer Scout. I'm surprised that's only worth 101. But, hey.
What, a War Destroyer Scout?
Yeah.
Yeah. He gives up a lot of weapons, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's probably the case. Because, obviously, with Scouts in fleet formation, it's economics. Might not cost that much more. Okay, and then we have Mr. Pekia, Peter Pekia, flying the Gorn. Yes, he's the one that's flying against Madman up here. With a heavy, heavy command cruise, that's it. And then a heavy destroyer, a battle destroyer, and a battle destroyer scout. So that makes things interesting. And of course, as you know from last week, my opponent, which is, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. ORGYOCKBO. Whatever. A really simple fleet of 5 destroyer pluses, which was already mentioned, that basically that gives him 20 photons. Now, after he fires the photons, the question is, what are you going to do? Because, as pointed out, the amount of power isn't that great. It's got a total of 23 points of power, even with the 4 additional AWR.
Well, that's assuming he fires all of his photons
right,
at once.
Right.
Some in reserve, or
right.
Maybe just kind of like go half one turn, half the next, firing procs as standards. You're gonna find out what his range brackets are the hard way.
Funny thing is, Peter Pekia mentioned, 5 DD pluses. This is certainly a horror show. It's like, it's gonna be. Is that 20? Yeah. 20 procs photons at range 30 at a potential of 80 damage if all hit. That is scary for me. What's scary for me is the 2 R Sabo torpedoes when it comes to the 2 KEs. Wow. That is one of
the real question is, what tactic does he decide on at the start?
Right. When it comes to comes my opponent, don't know yet. Just to let you,
you're gonna overthink it ahead of time.
Thank you. Just to let you know, I have emailed him. I meant to do it a little bit earlier this week, but things being the way they are, just been crazy busy. And this weekend was kind of crazy busy too. But I finally emailed him back because he pinged me. It's like, hey, want a confirmation here? Because I told him I could play this weekend on Saturday or Sunday in the afternoon. I can do that. At night, no, definitely not Saturday night. Definitely not Saturday night. And definitely not Sunday night, because of Sunday night I'm gonna be spending most of the night just driving my son back and forth, driving him back to his group home and driving all the way back. So that's usually 3 hours right there. On the road. But anyway, the plan, hopefully, is that we'll be able to start at 12 noon Eastern time on Sunday. So anyone who wants to watch the game, I will be recording it for posterity's sake and watch, so people can watch me die.
I have some faith in you.
I got some faith in me.
You'll make it through the experience.
Yes. Yeah.
Your ship, I'm not so sure about.
Yeah, it definitely is going to be interesting. Just in the case of, we've got a Destroyer Plus. Here's the thing. Destroyer Plus, I don't think has any drones.
Yeah, but he's got 5 destroyers with
Right.
20 frickin' photons. I don't think he needs any drones.
True. But the good thing about that is that I don't have to worry about firing on any miscellaneous seeking weapons to and slow me down. So the only thing that's
Oh
going to
yeah.
only thing that's going to slow me down probably is going to be using erratic maneuvering and maybe a little bit of ECM. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Peter mentioned this. I mean, on the upside, the DD Plus team has a lot of EW issues. Not much power, no potential for ECM drones, and aren't really fast, especially when reloading. But still, eek. Yeah, agreed.
Well, see, here's the fun part, Paul.
Yep.
Even if he spends all of his photons and just kind of does the average things and he only cripples one of your ships or blows it up, but just one,
Right.
um, after that, he has a buttload of phasers. So, but the problem is he's kind of like blast cannons
Right.
in a sense. I mean, you've got just enough. If he's not doing the proxies and he tries to close on you for range, you've got the potential to cripple or destroy one of his boats with your direct fire weapons before he gets into a decent firing range. Of course, that would only take out 4 of them, and then you only got to deal with 16 photons at closer range, and probably more damage each.
Right.
But that's a whole other, you know,
Yeah.
whole another sandwich to chew on.
Agreed. Yeah, he has 6 phaser ones. So, in a way, don't want to get too close to him because 6 times 5 is 30 phaser ones.
And that's assuming that he does the focus fire.
Mm-hmm.
So, who knows?
1, 2, 3.
You'll find
4,
out when you sit down to it.
10. Yeah, so the 20-box shields.
Yeah, they're glass cannons.
Right. Oh,
They're
understood.
it's like they took the Fed CA and like just kind of changed the power curve and said, okay, we're gonna make this a lot easier for you to explode, but on the other hand, it's got basically the same damage output as a heavy cruiser.
Oh, yeah. Which actually, Jeff Clark mentioned that's like, yes, what kind of a science class 4 unit has the same firepower as a CA? I do remember a Fed fleet of CV, a carrier group with fighters to protect a bunch of destroyers which could proxy at range 30. Maybe there was a Fed scout that helped with EW, but for some reason, the clean adversary fleet had a pretty tough time with that strategy, even with Durfax. Disruptors that were not great out in those range brackets, with only destroyers and on the fixed map. And without EW support, I wonder if proximity strategy would work. Anyway, it's a creative fleet to build for this tournament. I agree, it's a creative fleet. The question is, how well will it work?
Like I said, we'll find out when he sits down to it. It just depends on what he decides to do ahead of time.
Yep. And the thing is, I have to, and no matter what, I pretty much have to react to it, because
Well, the thing is, you can make your own strategy.
Yeah, but at the same time, your own strategy does not work.
Yeah, but you're not quite in. Well, you're still in a fishbowl. You're not quite in the regular tournament fishbowl, so to
True.
speak.
I do have room to fly.
I mean, you've got plenty of room to like go in there and pop off a whole bunch of particle cannons at range. Just the big mystery question is going to be if you've got erratic maneuvering and you've got EW going while you're closing with them, and do you do a speed turn change and reinforce some shields on all of your boats just on the potential of him doing the procs thing at a certain range bracket?
Yeah, and see, that's always the gotcha on that, which is you don't know if he's going to be, because if you prepare for a prox photon engagement, and with the EW and all that, and then you approach him. If he doesn't fire, you don't know why he's not firing. He's not firing because you've upped the EW, so prox photons really aren't worth his actually firing, or is it that he's got standard torpedoes and is waiting for you to get closer in to finally fire?
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
that's the gotcha in the whole situation.
Well, it's gonna be a nail biter until you figure out what he wants to do, and then you'll know, and it's good, bad, or absolutely horrible for you.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Yeah. When it comes to Barry's game and mine, this
How did that go on Saturday?
it went poorly. I made one mistake, which is I was afraid he was going to centerline me, and he was going to centerline me. But the problem is that I did something stupid in that I tried to hit against him. So the idea was I was going to fly past him, but unfortunately, before I could fly past him, he got to range 2, right directly off his shield number 2. So he fired like everything at me at range 2, and it's like I thought about it, on Tuesday, and I went, that was, even if I really wanted to stay out of that, I didn't have to head back towards him. What I should have done at the very least is head away from him, so that I'd maintain the range, and he still wouldn't be able to centerline me, at least immediately anyway.
So it was a really good game for Barry then.
Yes.
Okay. Just throwing that out there in perspective, so somebody had fun, and you had fun too.
Oh yeah, and we had fun, playing a game of Lancaster.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, the funny part to me,
Birmingham. Brass Birmingham.
Yeah. I thought it was okay. Yeah. Whatever.
I have no idea where Lancaster came into that.
I don't know. Probably because the other one.
Is there a variant of it called Lancaster?
Yeah, I think. Well, there's a different one which is Lancaster. It's their Birmingham.
Does it have Amish?
It plays a little different. They have boats, and then you have to get things to the wharf to ship things off.
Okay.
It doesn't use beer as one of the resources.
Right.
So things are a little different. We like the Birmingham one better.
The same mechanics but different stuff.
Right.
Sort of.
So yeah, it plays a bit different. Because, when it comes to what resources you want to grab and the order you want to grab them and where you want and what places you want to grab, because obviously it's a totally different map too. So that plays a little differently there. I'm actually not to put you down, and not that we didn't want to play with you. But I'm surprised that Barry invited you, because my understanding is that he wanted to get out of there early, and I knew that adding an additional person was going to make it longer.
Yeah.
But okay, that he's the one who invited you, so
I'm okay with it.
Yeah. So if he was fine with the additional time.
It's like this. The reason he wanted to go was something that he could have just literally chosen his time on, so it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's up to him.
Agreed.
It wasn't like he had to go catch a flight,
right?
So to speak.
He was going to catching a flight the next day.
Right.
To fly out to work.
But it wasn't that kind of deadline and time.
Right.
Is what I'm saying.
Right. It wasn't a hard deadline.
Okay.
So.
All depends on when he took his pill. So. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
Wrong.
So. Yeah.
Folks, he did not say that. It was just your imagination.
That's editing is for.
Okay. Well, going to get to the topic for this evening. I want to mention something in these fleets. As I looked at them, the one thing that was interesting to me was this. There are half the fleets, and this is weird, exactly half the fleets that have scouts. And exactly half the fleets that don't have the scouts. So you have four fleets that are going to be playing with scouts against ones without scouts. And actually, who is? Let me see if one quick one. I want to look at. Was this it? No, probably. It'll probably take me too much time to figure it out.
What's the question?
The question is, how many of the fleets with scouts are flying against a fleet with a scout? Basically, scout on scout action.
No idea.
Because of obviously there's going to be at least one. And the reason why I say that is because I'm flying against I don't have a scout. I'm flying against an opponent that doesn't have a scout.
Yeah, so then you just answered your own question.
So there's at least that means there's one.
At least one.
I don't know if there's any more.
You can check the matchups, can't you?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. And after that, I have to look to see which player has a fleet that has a scout in it. That's why I thought it might take a little bit longer than I might want to dedicate to said investigation. I don't see it here.
Well, here's a thing about the whole scout versus not having the scout thing. It's a huge trade-off. I mean, on the one hand, you've got a potential for cutting down people's damage to next to nothing. But on the other hand, you're going to be sacrificing a significant chunk of your own damage dealing capability. On the other hand, if your damage dealing ships can cause lots of damage without being hurt very much, you don't have to like blow your opponent away every single turn. You can attrit them pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but that was the topic for this evening, which is EW, in which, in addition to, there's two parts of EW that we can talk about. Number one is one thing that was actually brought up. If you're following this topic, the 500 BPV tournament topic, if you're following, because I click on last day and all of a sudden I see all these posts. And that is, there was a discussion going on, and that is whether EW just slows down the game versus EW enhances the play. Also, it helps balance out some of the different empires. Because in the case of Ted Fay, he was just mentioning here that he's just an observer here because he's not actually part of the tournament, at least this time around. And he said that I found that EW does make a difference. First, because EW uses power, the ships tend to slow down somewhat. That makes a difference to the Seeker empires, especially Big Plasma. And second, let me just show what he says here. Second, it often does make a difference during fire, much like SFB. EW is a guessing game. You don't always guess right. That +1 or +2 can make a significant difference to the damage done, particularly in the medium ranges. And third, I thought there was only two, but third, it allows you to put a ship or two out there in front of the super heavy Under super heavy EW, forcing +2 or even a +3, usually the opponent was forced or incentivized to shoot the front ships to do less damage, permitting the heavy hitters to get a better map position or even better shot. EW is not a panacea by any stretch of the imagination. However, I wouldn't call it a wash because it doesn't always even out. And even if it did, it slows down, ships down, see one above. And my 2 quat lose. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
No, he does make a good point.
Geez, I got
And as a rule set, it also kind of slow bogs the game down.
Yes.
A little bit.
Oh yeah, it does, especially if you're not used to using EW. That it takes an adjustment to get used to planning for EW and when you should use it, when you shouldn't use it. Obviously, it's one other thing that's going to take energy away from you, especially with the smaller ships. Using flat out EW flat out ECM, an ECCM doesn't work. You have to do things like, in some cases, is the ship nimble? That can help.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Or and also, of course, then there's erratic maneuvering. Erratic maneuvering allows you to do things on the cheap for smaller ships. Because
But has its own penalties.
right, exactly. Because of
And
it
it's
takes
not
6
the panacea you think it is too, but
right.
it's just an extra thing.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, instead of taking 6 points of power to generate 6 points of ECM, it takes 6 movement points, which for the smaller ships is less than a point per point of ECM, basically. I think that's right.
I think you might want to revisit that part. But
Yeah. The amount of EW that's generated by ECM. Yeah. Got a point there. This is one thing I want to get back to sometime in the future. For those of you watching the video, which is the Cosians. I want to get back to that one. I know. I think we discussed it before, but I'd like to get back to it and talk about that again. Electronic rule book. Okay, this was one of the things that we had to do as part of buried to my battle is that I had to look up the rule about just to make sure I got it right. I mean, I'm glad I did, which is the post-het restrictions on high energy turns. And basically, you can't do any. You can't launch a shuttle for like 5 impulses. So like, oh, okay. Erratic. I'm spelling that wrong. I don't want to. Erratic. Yeah. So it's going to be C10 dot 1. Yeah. Reduce cost for neck maneuverings. Wow. Wow. That's interesting. Nimble units. While we don't under EM, a nimble ship can begin using erratic maneuvering without avoiding a previously launched wild weasel if it's at low speed. So.
yeah, but you can't break your speed cap.
Right. Right. Okay, it's 4 points of ECM. To find the terms of electron war, this is used on a standard. It's considered a natural source. Simply use 4 points of ECM to provide a +2 die roll, and assume that there's no other source of ECM or ECCM. Note, however, that certain terrain features can produce ECM points also. But I think we might have mentioned erratic maneuvers before, and that is that erratic maneuverings are considered natural source, so they don't fall into restriction of the number of ECM points that you actually can generate from a ship.
Here's a question, because I've forgotten. Does it penalize your ability to generate ECCM or ECM
I
while
don't.
you're under erratic maneuvers?
No, I don't think. I don't think it does. That would
It
make no sense
might.
if it did. Okay.
It might be something to look up. Nothing says though like losing your game because yeah, you can't have that much extra ECM tacked on top.
Okay. Do. Right. Da, da, da. Right. Ba, ba, ba. Okay. Yeah. Right. Right. Okay. Well, my assumption is no. It doesn't. No. It doesn't say that it's it causes any issues for ECM that's generated. And under electronic warfare section of the rule, EM is defined in terms of electronic warfare. The system is still used if the players are using standard electronic warfare rules. EM is considered a natural source. D6.3143 simply use 4 points of ECM to provide a +2 die roll shift, assuming there's no other source of ECM or ACCM. Note, however, that certain terrain features can produce ECM points that could, in some circumstances, be added to the points from EM.
It's just one of those things that's nagging at the back of my head. Could be like tucked away in the ECM rules.
No, well,
I don't know. It just seems to me like that's way too powerful a combo.
no. Well, the thing is, you have all kinds of restrictions while you're using EM, and you only can turn on once during a turn and turn off once during a turn. So there's a lot of restriction in it. Things like you can't when you're using EM, you can't guide seeking weapons. So if you have drones, you can't.
Doesn't matter to you.
Right, but for some other people, it could matter.
Yeah.
Can't lay weapon webs. You can't launch drones, shuttles, or fighters, or probes, PFs, or plasma torpedoes. So basically, you can't launch anything that's seeking or seeking weapons or shuttles or even PFs. So yeah, there's a lot of restrictions when you're using that, and there natural sources. The reference to natural sources in the Iraq maneuver rules. Natural sources points received from natural causes such as and certain types. And I'm just okay. Built in, received from lending. Okay, and can it come from any? Okay, general pump. Okay, I'll just double check. Right. Receiving from lending is limited 6 points of ECM or 6 ECM from all sources, including scouts. Scouts own self SWACs, MR shuttles, wild weasels, ECM drones, EW fighters. And a unit can generate 6 points of EW and receive from a scout 6 points of ECM and 6 points of ECCM. That's a lot. Received from offensive ECM under rule of G24.219, which is a special sensor functions. A unit can receive unwelcome and unwanted negative ECM from an enemy scout, which is all kinds of fun. That's when you say die, die, die. I'm just the one thing I'm just double checking, make sure that there's a limit to the amount of it can receive from lending, and built in natural sources Generated points are from power expended or self-generated points. The total of both ECM and ACM cannot exceed the highest unchecked scanner box, usually 6. Note that that total is 6. A ship cannot generate 6 ECM and 6 ECCM or 6 ECM and 1 ECM, for that matter, at the same time. So there is no mention of restrictions on natural sources, which makes sense to me.
Yeah, but I think that's one that's like worth just in my opinion, it's worth like a Google search just to make sure, like on the forums, that there isn't some other ruling or something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just my opinion.
Understood.
Nothing like ruins a game or a good strategy like the one thing that SFB is really noted for, which is the gotcha moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Oh yeah,
understood.
except over here where it says you can't do that this way because like your whole strategy is just blown out. And yeah, so
Okay.
yeah. You still end up generating 4 points against yourself, right? For shooting purposes. So you have to basically drop it to like have a normal shot.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
In theory. Obviously,
Not in theory.
well, no, in theory, because my understanding is that actually, I actually have to look this up, but I'm pretty sure that you can generate ECCM to offset the ECM from the erratic maneuvering because the erratic maneuvering is a natural cause.
But wouldn't it just be cheaper to like stop you know, stop the erratic maneuvers and shoot?
Yeah. But as I mentioned, the one bad part of that is that after you stop using EM, you cannot enable it again.
For a while.
Yeah, for a while, and possibly not at all. I have to double check on one thing, which is if starting the turn with erratic maneuvering, is that considered your activation for the turn?
Probably.
And if that's the case, then if you turn it off anytime during the turn, then you can't enable it. You can't turn it back on for the rest of the turn.
You can always ask the Steves. But yeah, my guess would be that yeah, that counts as it. Otherwise, you could turn it off on impulse 2 and then turn it back on, 10 impulses later or something.
Right. Well, that's what I have to look that up. Um,
I'm not that great of a fan of EW because I've seen what it can do
mhm.
to a match, how unfrickin' lopsided that shit can get. But yeah.
Yeah, I understand. But and well, that's what the opponents to using EW, even in fleet battles, um, is they're saying, which is basically they feel like that EW is just a waste of time. You
Yeah,
know,
it really is. It's one of those. It's an optional rule that God knows why he did it. I'm sure he had his reasons, but It's just nah. It's one of those things that I don't know. I personally, nah, no,
Okay,
not for me.
understood. Being a person on the other side of having hit with those nasty photons and have the possibility of actually not being hit.
Well, the flip side of all that is he could do the same back to you,
Right. Oh, agreed.
and it's cheaper for him to do it that way with erratic maneuvers than ECM normally. And it almost behooves him to do erratic maneuvers plus extra on top of it, just to hose you out of anything resembling a decent shot with your particle cannons
That is true because the
and your web breakers, because they do not have the greatest of hits.
no, they don't.
And you could find yourself in a similar situation where it's like, you know, neither side can shoot each other, and you end up having to get the point blank range to hit each other with phasers. And I think he wins that equation. I mean, if you both completely make yourselves miss entirely with all your heavy weapons, you've got 4 units, he's got 5 units, but his 5 units have 30 phaser ones. Something on your side is going to die
Understood.
at that point, yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, here's the thing. If he starts the game, and as he approaches, enables EW before he gets to like range 30 or range 30 or relatively long range, that tells me that his photon torpedoes are not loaded with prox photons.
Maybe, maybe not. Fighting involves some degree of deception too.
Yeah, well, the thing is going to be that if he does do that EW, there's a point where you can't fire a prox photon at your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
So if if we get closer, and he's still using erratic maneuvering and heavy ECM.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. It's a good indicator he might be wanting to get to point blank range before shutting it off and hosing you with everything. But he could also pull the same trick and say, okay, I don't want to get sniped by a guy who can fire his heavy weapons twice in one turn. And he might be looking at getting too close to that point break. And when he's at the point break, he says, okay, erratic maneuvers are off next impulse.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when he shoots you. So you're gonna find out when you get down to the nitty gritty of him doing what he's gonna do. So
Yep.
there's that.
So
there's just so many variables in this game.
Mm-hmm.
So
agreed. And against this opponent, I appreciate the idea of having EW. If for nothing else, it gives me an opportunity to close in on the opponent without being beat up at long range, because we're starting at a pretty long range. So, because in theory, if there was no EW, he could definitely use. I'd have to come in and pray he's not using prox photons. Because in theory, he can come in. Decide I'm going to go long range, like 30 hexes, and if he times it right, he can do it like near the end of the turn. Fires all his prox photons, and hopefully, and Lord knows some ship, maybe two ships are wiped off the board.
No, no, no. If he's going to do that, he's going to focus them all on one ship.
That's true.
There is no point in splitting your fire. And if he does split his fire, he can deserve to lose then.
Right. But so then okay, so he concentrates on one ship and it gets wiped out, and I have no chance of getting close enough to actually do some damage.
At range 30, what is his to hit probability with the proton or with
50%.
It's what?
50%.
1 to 3.
1 to 3.
Okay, and you're gonna make him have a 1 to 2. If you max out your ECM with
no, I make it so it won't hit.
Yeah.
If he doesn't use ECCM.
Yeah. If he doesn't, and if he uses 6 points of ECCM, then to counter your 6 points of ECCM, you're putting him in a 2 shift still, right?
Right.
Which makes it a 1 to hit.
Right, and which means he won't fire.
It probably won't. Yeah. You never know. I would say not to bother personally.
Oh, agreed.
You're talking 1 out of 6 hitting.
Mm-hmm. But the point I'm bringing about is that if I didn't have EW, I have no choice than to run into it and pray he not going to have prox photons loaded and charged, fire them at long distance, and then run, try to keep the range open for at least
turn back. Yeah.
All you need
I understand. Yeah, totally. I get it.
So in my mind, especially in this scenario, EW it gives me an opportunity, gives me a chance of actually winning.
Well, it gives you a significant edge in that you can essentially negate his long range attack.
Exactly.
Which means he has to get to middle range or close range to be dangerous to you. The problem you have, Paul, is that no matter what, at the end of the day, you're facing an opponent who has a potential jackpot capability that is incredibly dangerous to your ships.
Yep.
And if you have not had ECM in this, you'd have to significantly reinforce stuff, go at a slower speed, cross your fingers.
Right. Oh, definitely cross my fingers.
And then go at an extremely high speed to close that gap once you find out which one of your ships he's going to pick on.
Right.
So he's got a significant potential for controlling the range and the tempo. And what's your max range with your particle cannons?
I think, if I recall correctly, they are like range 30, max range, and that's for like 1 point of damage.
Oh, yeah. So he's got you outmatched at the distance game.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yep. Good luck, Paul.
Well, I said that. Yeah, because Satorian.
I mean, you're basically negating his ability to shoot you until he cracks a range bracket, at least.
Right, exactly. That's to me,
but
the
downside of this is unless you pick off some of his ships at that mid-range fight, and he gets to close range, he's going to tear you to bits.
He could, yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially if he gets to point blank range. Because the question is, are you going to take... At some point, you're going to have to turn your erratic maneuvers off.
Oh, agreed.
A shooting chance. And once you do that, then you're in that position of his photons can hurt you very badly. Assuming he doesn't take the pain on the 2 shift at some point. And, if he gets the range 2 and you still have your stuff on, well, 20 photons fully overloaded, he's still going to take out, he might take your whole fleet out. Or at least cripple it.
Mm-hmm.
Or take 2 of your ships completely out of the game. I don't know. Like I said before, it's like you're not going to know until you actually get in there and see him maneuvering and have to deal with it.
Agreed.
There's only so many things you can do. It's like just pick a plan for how you're going to attack and defend and try to stick to it.
Yeah, because
yeah.
at the same time, have to keep an eye out for opportunities which may not be according to plan. So.
Yeah, there's that.
Yep.
And then again, there's also the potential of maybe he won't be doing quite what you think he's going to be doing.
Agreed.
Maybe he's going to overthink it on your part too.
Well, Doug, at the same time, there's a limited amount of stratagems that he can use. Mm-hmm. Is he going to focus on closing the range and using standard photons possibly and getting to overload range? In which case, that really gets nasty. Everything goes boom. Which obviously I don't want to get too close. If I can, or is he going to go for possibly a longer, initial maybe prox photons runaway and then switch to standards, or is he going to try to keep the range open, which I don't think he will, with this prox photons? Because the reason why I say I don't think he will is because of that means that he has to keep the range open.
Yeah, who knows?
Agreed.
Which rock, paper, scissors is he going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And which are you going to do?
Right.
Oh. Yep, so, okay, dead horse.
Yeah, when it comes to that game, that is pretty dead. So actually,
it could be a shtick. I could just go. That's a dead horse.
That's a dead horse.
Pretty loud for a dead horse, but it's a dead horse.
Yeah. Well, actually, I want to actually end it here, just because of I wanted to talk to Doug a little bit afterwards, and I didn't have actually another topic for tonight. EW was it, and obviously I want to just introduce people to what fleets that the other players are also using, and the the thing I wanted to point out, which obviously is that we got people with scouts and people not with scouts. The interesting part is going to be when we have those fleets in conflict, i.e., the ones that don't have scouts versus the ones that do have scouts, and how well do they fare? Obviously, the ones with scouts have an EW advantage, but because of the EW advantage, which means they have a better overall defensive position. They might not have as good of an offensive position because of by getting a scout, you're giving up weapons. Your offensive potential then goes down, basically.
I have a little alibi thingy for all the people listening in, either now and or post. Just to remind you, just to get this little bit in there. Hey, look, Paul and Barry played SFB at the event
Yep.
last weekend. And hey, guess what? We're going to be there Labor Day. We've got the contract signed and countersigned. I just have to put the event on the website. That's basically it.
Yep.
So, yay.
Awesome.
That's all I got, Paul.
And obviously, if somebody wants to approach me and they want to come and prearrange a fleet battle that that we can run over the whole weekend, I'd be more than happy to do that. Because we've got a table. Hey, there's no cats around. There's no children. Well, there are children around, but we can guarantee that they won't mess up the board. Now,
Probably.
if we might have problems rolling die and all of a sudden our pieces go everywhere, Barry and I had a minor problem with that.
Well, that's on you guys.
But that's something we can possibly we can work on. We can work on. We'll make sure we can avoid that situation. But the point is that you have an opportunity to play SFB if you really love it and you want to play an actual fleet battle. This is your opportunity. I'll be there. If you'll be there and you'll tell me that you're coming and we can set up the scenario beforehand, then yes, let's go. I'll probably not play the Saltorians. I'll probably play another fleet unless you want to play the Tholians, in which case that'd be kind of a cool fleet battles because I've not done that scenario, which I think would be kind of cool. Obviously, I could play the Andromedans, but I know a lot of people don't like that. So, anyhow, well, Doug, it's been wonderful having you around. You have a good night.
Yep, thanks for having me on again.
Love to have you on. So, those of you who joined us, it's had a nice little discussion about EW. Obviously, Doug has some strong opinions on that. And another review of our fleet battle. And I will be more than happy to give you an update with next week to tell you how things went. Well, at least in the beginning too, because obviously this is going to take somewhere around, we're guessing, on 16 hours of playtime. Depends. The first turn should be relatively quick, just because of we just have to do the EA and then just move towards each other, or at least if one person approaches, one person can do go against the wall and do that. But the idea is you got to close to engage. You have to fight. And I don't think it's a good idea to sit there and like castle, because I think you'll get your butt kicked, at least to a certain degree. At least I know I would with the number of photons he's got. That's not a good thing. You want to keep the range open at least somewhat. But anyhow, with that, I am Paul Franz, and I bid you a good night.